All right, I was going to record this video, then I wasn't, now I am. If you just watched the previous video that I uploaded to this channel yesterday and you watched it all the way to the end, or you listened to the podcast version, which you can access in the link in the description, then realistically you don't really need to watch or listen to this. But I got to the end of that like 45-minute long ramble and realized that I put some of the stuff at the end that really needs to be separate. And I had already intended on releasing a video today talking about this stuff. So here it is. This is my plan. This is my goal. This is my objective for the next year, for the 9th of September 2023. To be honest, some of this stuff might come out prior to that, but this is what I want to do to take my brand, the Motus Projects, to the next level, to at least get it done. Even if the whole thing falls apart after that point, then at least I have done this. This is something that I wrote on a whiteboard a good couple of years ago, and I've talked about with friends for so long. And I've already done some of the groundwork and I'm reaching out to people regarding this, but this is me taking it public and saying, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to be documenting the entire process for the next year. I want help. I want you guys involved, and I'm doing this for the accountability of it. 19 years ago today, Jump London came out. Jump London is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's the documentary that basically, it was featuring Seb Foucon and a few other parkourists, tracers from Lease, and it was basically the origin story of parkour. It was filmed, directed by Mike Christie. It was basically the first thing that got myself and many others into parkour. I'd seen the Rush Hour commercial previously, but I think I just thought it was fake. But I saw Jump London and immediately went out training, as did many other people. And as I described it in the last video, and I have done before, it's the pebble in the pond. It creates that ripple effect. And then Jump Britain was undoubtedly the rock, because that was a much bigger splash. But we wouldn't be where we are with regards to parkour and its culture if it wasn't for Jump London. And it's, 20 years to me is an insane amount of time to been involved in something, and obviously parkour has changed my life hugely. I talk a lot about that and some thoughts about all that in the previous video, as well as a lot about Motus and where we currently are. The short story is not in a great place, but that's kind of why I want to take this all public and do this. But yeah, what I want to do I want to create a series of projects that celebrate this 20-year anniversary of Jump London, which, as I said, one of the most impactful things in my life. In short, that is a clothing collection. That is a longer form action parkour film. That is a documentary. That is a photo book, and ideally a pop-up shop, and then also a personal training video. That's obviously the highlight, obviously. The clothing collection, we're a clothing brand, so I'll address that first. Like, I want to put out a collection that celebrates and is inclusive to the last 20 years of London parkour culture. So there's stuff that I could put on a shirt that would reference things like spots that I used to train at 15 years ago in London that now don't exist, and that wouldn't appeal to somebody who's been training for 3 years. But also there's things that somebody who's been training for 3 years might want to put on a shirt that doesn't appeal to me, for example. So I want to find that balance. I want to put out a really high quality collection that celebrates the last 20 years, accessories, clothes, etc. We obviously have the capability to sort of handle a chunk of this, but I want input. I want help on what people think they want to see, what they want to reference. If there's designers who might be interested in this as well, then I'd love to talk to you. And with regards to all of these projects, it's all being discussed in this Discord channel that I've opened up, the Motus Discord. There'll be channels for these individual things, and that's probably the first place to get in contact and start talking about all this. I'll plug that again in a bit. But yeah, like the clothing is one thing. I really I love documentaries. I love making documentaries, and I really want to see and create a documentary that looks at everything that's happened over the last 20 years. And this would kind of go inside, like go alongside the photo book. I want to make like a glossy coffee table photo book, like probably something that would cost a bit of money to buy and be probably in limited numbers, not a zine, but a proper thing that is filled with. I mean, what I want to do with the documentary and the photo book is look back at the history, look back at pivotal moments that changed not only the sort of shape of London parkour, but also parkour in the world. Interview people, obviously Mike Christie, Seb, some of the OG UF guys like Blue and things, like start at the fucking origin and then go all the way through to now, and then also look to where we think things are going in the future. There's so much to be explored. I've already got lists and lists of things that I want to explore, but there's also things I would have forgotten about or neglected to think about. And I would just love to get people involved with this and talk to people about it. I don't know how we're going to pull it off. Like, documentaries are big things to do. For the photo book, there's obviously a lot of photos to source. I've already been in talks with some of the earlier photographers from back in the day, Andy Day being the big one. Keel, as someone may know him, he shot a lot of the like early UF stuff and Jump Britain and things like this. And yeah, like those are two things that I think need to exist, and 20 years seems like a very apt time to do it. And I don't want it to be some snappy, 12-minute long YouTube documentary. Like, no discredit to him, Kieran, Jimmy the Giant, but like it needs to be more than that. It needs to be more of a Bones Brigade, sat down interviews, nice backdrops, etc. Thing that really, really looks back. So I'll be needing to source a lot of like throwback footage. I'm gonna need help keeping it moving, shooting, editing. Like there's so many aspects to all of this. When it comes to the book, it's sourcing photos, it's incorporating spot maps and graphics, and I've got notes here, by the way, so sorry if I keep looking down. Yeah, those are two massive things that I want to do. And then alongside that, what I would love to do, and what I think would be, once again, incredibly apt, is to put out a large, hard-hitting action piece, Soul Destroyer-esque, I would say, but not just Motus athletes. Like, ideally, a collaborative piece where people feel like they want to get involved and they want to submit stuff. And this is what I need to work out, is whether or not this is something that people submit clips, but then you've got quality variances, or whether we get a singular cameraman or a few camera people involved to go out and capture it. Because it's like, if let's say Dom is coming to London in the summer and he's going to demolish it, then there's going to be stuff that is going to be worth putting in this video, and obviously that's up to him whether or not he wants to get involved. But there's a lot of people like that where it's like they have made craters in the London scene, not just like put their footprints on it. I mean, they've changed the London scene, and I think the sickest thing to do would be put out a huge project that is just like, boom. I don't have names for any of this stuff. I keep saying 20 years of training or things like this, because I love the fact that we always say training, going out training. It's like, what are you training for? But yeah, like a huge video thing. I don't know whether it would be paid for. I don't know whether it would be free. Obviously, there's complications either way you go on that. There's a few like throwback stunts to Jump London that I would love to get done, that would probably require either, I mean, let's be realistic, a sort of a level of equality rather than permission to pull them off. You can probably guess what some of those are. Music, editors, time, filmmaking. There's huge components here, and this is why I'm putting this out. Is it's too big for me. It's too big for our little in-house team. It's I want to work with people on this, and what I'm trying to do is just put this out there and see what comes back to me. And if nothing comes back, then I guess fuck it, we won't do it. Or maybe I'll just do it all on my own and it'll break me down. And then yeah, ideally my dream, I've wanted to do this for so long, is to host like a pop-up shop. You ideally rent a store in London, and I mean the dream scenario would be on a street that's kind of nearby, I guess, like streetwear stores, places where the similar demographic to parkour practitioners would be. Obviously, we're a clothing brand, so that kind of makes sense. and have like this immersive experience where you go in and it's like, wow, this is like a skate store, but it's parkour. And obviously there's a huge expense there. There's a lot of planning you would need to do to pull it off. You can do smaller pop-ups like inside another store and things like this, but you don't get as much creative freedom. So like I'm kind of just putting it out there to see. That's the one thing that it's like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but I would love it to. But I'm putting it out there to see if anyone's like, oh, my uncle has a store or something like that. The real dream, and something that I've never really vocalized apart from in the last video that I put up yesterday, because I'm just basically regurgitating what I've already said, is I've had this concept for years now called the step up, where I want to have, I guess it, like, I've always envisioned it if you had this like this pop-up store, and next door you would have this thing called the step up. So on one side you'd have like the Motus store, and that would be this like 20 years of training, London cultural immersive thing. But next to it, or as a subsection of the store, you would have the step up, and the step up is a booster for other brands, for other teams, for artists and things, because a step up in parkour is obviously, it's what we use to gain sort of more airtime, more speed, gain more. Like it's our step up to jumping further. And I would love it if Motus could provide that and be like, here's your step up, like here's a little boost. So you'd have this like secondary store that has, you know, a rail for each of the smaller brands and art being displayed and stuff like that. And I don't know if I always think maybe I should take that concept and do something just with it anyway. Whether it was on the Motus website or as a separate thing, I'm not sure. But that's another kind of aspect of this dream. And I feel like over the years, I've always kept things like that quite close to my chest, because I'm like, oh, someone might steal it, but I'm clearly not making any movements with it. So I need to just put that shit out there and see if it turns into anything. But yeah, the story is tricky, because realistically, if it was going to happen, you'd have to start booking things far sooner than you would expect and working things like that out. And it's expensive and yeah. And then I guess the final thing, the most exciting, which is why I've left it to the last, is if I've been training for 20 years, I need to put out a video. I haven't put out a personal video in probably over a decade, or anything other than like Instagram videos or whatever. Not because it's going to be any special level of good, not that I'm going to try and push myself to some crazy standard, but I want to do it as a personal challenge, because if I can get all that stuff done that I've just spoken about, obviously with your guys' help, and also put out a personal video, it'll just be an achievement, keep me in shape, be good. And I am getting older and I'm fucking more scared of stuff every day, so like I want to have a bit of a marker of like, cool, I'm happy. But yeah, I as I said in the previous video, I simply will not be able to do this alone. I simply don't even know if it's possible to do in the next 365 days, 52 weeks, 3 billion seconds, whatever it is. But it's gonna happen, and it needs to happen. And I want you guys involved, and I wanna create a community-driven project that a lot of people can work towards and be happy about. And I'm gonna build it all in public. I'm gonna be updating you guys on this channel. I don't want to say weekly, just in case it isn't, but as often as possible, whenever it feels right. I'm going to be incorporating in, you know, probably realistically just this format, because that's why I also just thought I'll do it like a podcast, because personally I would much prefer to listen to this than watch me just sitting here. And both my little lights have died now. But I really like it when people build stuff in public. It gives a level of accountability, and also it creates that like paper trail to look back and see where things started from, and sort of you can follow all the fuck ups. And if you want to hear about a lot of fuck ups, go watch the other video, because that's got some interesting stuff in it. But yeah, Discord is in the description. We're going to have separate channels for all of those projects. I really could just do with input and help and everything. And yeah, if you want to listen to this in podcast format, link in the description. If you want to support, buy Motus, etc, etc, etc. And yeah, I think that's kind of everything. Apologies if you've heard this all in the last video, but I did warn you at the start. You didn't need to watch it or listen. So yeah, I will be back in, I guess I'll try and do another one in like a week and let you guys know how things are going, who's been in contact and things. And please do jump in the Discord. Like, it's the old podcast, Patreon, Discord, which we've now shut down, but it's got some stuff in there already. But yeah, let's do this. Let's make this happen, because I need something. I was about to say something to live for. Jesus Christ. No, I need a big project to focus on. I need a big driving thing to work behind, because I think I'm quite good at doing that, and I need to prove it to myself that I can do this. And I know I can't do it alone. So I want to prove it to myself that I can get you guys involved and do it. So sick. Thank you. Love you. Bye.